All right. Very excited today to have my first guest on the show. Um, Welcoming Coach Daniel Kim. Bro, I'm just going to give a little intro. It's called the JWALK&TALK podcast.
Appreciate you having me.
Hey, pleasure having you on the first show. So, look, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I know off the top of my head with your experiences coaching, because I haven't seen you in, I don't know, a few years now, maybe a couple of years, feels like a lifetime. But yeah, so 2017, I think I came and saw you maybe once when I came back from Gladstone or something like that.
Yeah, might have been. Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much off the top of my head, bro, like from what I've seen, you've coached with the NBL, Illawarra Hawks, Sydney Kings. You've worked with the Sydney Uni Flames last year. You've also done work for, sorry, freezing now. Was it Kenya? Are you doing work for Kenya?
Yep, that's right. Kenya national team.
And yeah, sorry, just jump in, bro. What else? Where else you at? I'm terrible.
So right now, yeah, no, you're good, man. So right now, as of now, I'm working with the Kenya national team as the video coordinator and scout, and right also working for a team remotely for a pro team in Taiwan. So same role as well over there, and also currently in the process of being an NBL1 head coach with the Inner West Bulls.
Yeah, man, and I just heard about that. You told me the other day, and I was really in shock that you've caught that gig. I mean, at such an early stage. To me, it's like I still remember you from literally just like from the beginning. So to know that you're at that level, just already coaching NBL1, doing all these things, it's quite inspirational, and I feel like your story has to be told, man. So thank you for coming, bro. Thank you for coming online with me.
No, it's a privilege for me, man, because, I've been very fortunate up until this point, people like yourself. I mean, you're actually one of the first guys, that really got me, into that position of coaching in the first place as well. A lot of people don't know that, and I'm just, really thankful for where I am now. I was actually, funny enough, I was talking to a player, that I'm trying to bring over board to Inner West on the phone. We talked for about an hour, and we were just talking about how bumpy, the journey is, to really establishing yourself, in this industry, not just, as a coach, but as a player. And, I suppose the trials and tribulations, some of us face. I mean, some of us don't always have it that easy in terms of, how we take those steps. But, but then again, I'm kind of thankful for how it's also turned out, because, I wouldn't be the man I am today.
Yeah, awesome, man. So anyways, we'll come back to the basketball stuff in a sec. Got plenty of basketball talk to get through, but I want to talk a little bit about, because when I first met you, man, I was actually intrigued just by your personality. I didn't even know you as a basketball player. I mean, the first time I remember meeting you was at Ride ELS. You were trying to guard me we were playing competitive mixed comp. And I still remember it quite vividly, actually. I remember standing at the free throw line, just chilling, going about my business. And then some guy just comes hard, boxes me out. And I'm just going, whoa, what's going on here? And then it was like, oh, then you just shadowed me around the court at mixed comp. And that had never happened before, man. Everyone just sits in a nice 2-3 zone. And here's this guy coming around just like boxing one on me. And I'm like, whoa. All right. But yeah, from that moment, I think I just liked how you were competitive, and I knew you had a competitive spirit about you. And then after getting to meet you and get to know you a little bit more, like meeting you through, I think it was at the Para Basketball Stadium, through the Young Gun stuff that they were doing and all that, UBL or whatever. And yeah, just sitting back and talking to you, and I was very interested in your whole story. So just from a competitive point, talk about how you got into basketball, or before basketball, and how boxing was kind of, your outlet from that point when I met you. Or were you doing anything else before boxing?
Yeah, no, that's wow, that really takes me back. So, for me, I was doing a lot of swimming, growing up, as a kid, and then obviously, any other Australian does in this country, learning how to swim. And I was actually quite competitive. There was a point where I think probably my junior, when I was in the junior school, I think that's when, I was, trying to almost, compete for some state stuff. But, pretty much it wasn't until I was about, I'd say, probably 11 years old. It was actually, matter of fact, 11 years old is when I actually first touched a basketball. And then, watching, the NBA and, watching Shaq and, watching Yao Ming, like that really, that really inspired me to play and, I suppose, grow this passion for basketball. And I played that throughout, my whole high school, career. And, being, being an Asian kid, in Australia, like, there were so many juggling acts because, my parents are like, oh, study, 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 study. But, for me, I wanted to just play sports. All I wanted to do was get in the gym and, just work out. But,
I reckon you could coach in the NBA and you'd still be a failure.
Oh, man. If it's not a doctor, if it's not a lawyer, it's a failure.
Yeah, bro. You messed up.
Man, 100%. No, but thankfully that's not the case. I mean, thankfully they've come around. But but I also I think boxing was a big part of who I was too. Like you kind of touched on. Being a swimmer first and foremost before I even touched a basketball, that kind of set the tone and just of my individual competitive nature, like, wanting to win. And, I just, I hated losing. Like, I really hated losing. Like I didn't even play, I still love playing chess now, but even as a kid, when I played my, my old man in chess, I just hated the end, losing. So I'd find so many ways to, fine tune my game. And, the same thing with swimming, I try and find ways to be more competitive. And then, boxing was kind of, a saving grace in a lot of ways because, I was a bit of a quiet kid, in school and, I was in a bit more of a shell, and boxing was kind of an opportunity as well to really, I suppose, expand my personality and I suppose get a better understanding of what I'm about, because when you're in the ring, it's all good hitting pads and and like getting all technical and looking flash, but when you're actually in the ring with somebody else who really actually wants to hurt you, like that's a very different story. And that's when you find out more about yourself. And I think that's when I knew that I had this competitive spirit, and I just didn't know where to put it. Like, I never knew where to put that competitive spirit. And, I tried other sports, I did, judo, some wrestling, I tried a lot of different things. And, but I definitely, like, there was a point where even with boxing, like, I'd gone over to the States, and I just remember, like, I'd gone over there and I,
Because you went to the Mayweather gym, and trained over there for a bit.
Yeah, that's right. So I went over to the Mayweather gym. I went to LA, I went to New York, I went to a few different gyms, and just to, also put myself out there and, train some of the best and, spar. And I definitely at one point, thought to myself, oh, could I do something with this? My parents hated that, by the way. Like they were like, no, not a chance. Like, no way. But I was never going to know unless I actually put myself with someone, some of the best, in that, I suppose, based on where I was at the time. And, a coach had approached me and, he basically, sat me down and he was like, look, is this really what you want to do? And I, at that time I was like, yeah, absolutely. But, then he actually said, well, are you willing to sacrifice everything? And when I say everything, I mean your health, your family, like your body. Like, are you willing to, sacrifice your soul, to essentially, claim a world title? And I looked at him and I paused for a second, literally a second. I no longer than a second. And he just looked at me right in my eyes and said, yep, this isn't for you. And
wow.
But yeah, for sure. But I mean, that kind of shattered me, like, because, I was like, whoa, like you're telling me that I don't have a competitive spirit and then I'm not made for this. But at the same time, it also shined light in the sense that, okay, this isn't my path. And, and then as a result, I came back home and started looking at other things, and then my passion for basketball came back. So then hence why, the path, went on. And as a result, you find a guy that's, just wanted to chase you around in a mixed basketball competition.
Bro, that's crazy, man. And oh man, I couldn't imagine someone just going, no, you're not made for this. But at the same time, it's kind of like that harsh truth, eh? Like somebody was man enough to tell you the truth and what they saw. So I mean, you can respect that as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I tell you what, I actually remember that moment so vividly. And, when I coach guys and, all the players I've coached before, and when I've sat down and had very similar conversations about, where they're at and who they are and whether or not it's realistic for them, at this stage, to maybe try and take a step to being a pro. Like in some ways, I feel like, it's sad and it's harsh, but the reality is that, you know, I'd like to think that one day, you know, that I'm actually doing them a favor, and, you know, creating that awareness and that self-reflection, you know, because if I didn't have someone do that for me, then, you know, I wouldn't be where I am today as a man,
Exactly,
most
exactly, man. And you'd have people selling you false, you know, dreams that you're never going to amount to, and that's just a waste of time.
100%.
But yeah, man. So look, how did it all start from there? So you finished with the whole boxing stint, and you still got this competitive spirit, and then you're kind of running around lost in a mixed comp, and then how did it kick off from there? So I mean, I kind of have my own version, but you know, what happened after we kind of touched base? Like
Yeah,
after we met, how did that whole thing happen? Because I took you to St. George, which is where the coaching thing
that's
just
right.
kind of blossomed. I
Yes.
think the seed was planted and then bang.
Yes. Yes.
But before that, was basketball something that you wanted to coach? Was coaching something that you wanted to pursue, or were you just kind of because when I first met you, you wanted to learn the game, how to play it properly. You know what I mean? How, you know, you were getting individuals and doing just anything you could to just soak in any information. You know, like
Yeah.
you didn't come from any state program. You didn't come from any type of basketball pedigree, family, or anything like that. You're just a random bloke that just found a passion in something that he liked, and yeah, how did that happen?
Yeah, it's crazy actually, because a lot of people don't know this. So I actually, you know, while I was obviously still boxing and, you know, and I suppose pursuing a career there, you know, I loved basketball. I still love the game. I still wanted to be a part of the game. So even after school, like, you know, I was around, I'd say even 19, you know, at the age of 19, people don't know this, but I was actually coaching, like, you know, at a lot of different private schools. So, you know, I was putting myself in a lot of different situations, girls and boys high schools. And, you know, I literally started coaching a C's, D's, E's, F's, G's team. Like, you know, I was
Whatever
coaching,
you
you know,
could get. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, whatever I could get. And like, it didn't matter to me. It really what was driving me to do it was the passion, like the passion for being a part of team sports and also making an impact. And, you know, at the time, my knowledge was very limited, but I knew what I was good. I was good at developing relationships, you know, with individual kids. And I knew I had a baseline understanding of concepts, but, you know, always obviously not to where I am now, but I had a baseline understanding from my high school, you know, playing career. So I kind of applied those same concepts, you know, with the kids and just got them enjoying their basketball. And, you know, I think seeing kids enjoy their basketball and as a byproduct of enjoying it, you know, buying in, you know, to the, I suppose, the process of training and, you know, committing to game plans, like, you know, to whatever little scale that was, you know, that's actually, you know, where my journey started. So, you know, seeing
Mm.
that and, you know, seeing how people grew and them thanking you for actually being an influential part of your life, not just on the court, but off the court, more importantly, like that really kind of like kept me in the game in terms of basketball. And then, you know, even like, you know, I was still like trying to play here and there, bit of pickup and stuff, like, you know, try and remain somewhat relevant, but, you know, by no means, you know, was I, you know, looking to take it too seriously. Like I actually had an old coach in America as well from high school days. And, you know, there was a point where I actually did visit him and, you know, see, you know, like, you know, see what he was doing over there and, you know, also take note of like what he was doing, you know, but I was just mostly visiting there just for the purpose of just kind of visiting the country. But it was funny because it's almost like I knew that this is what I wanted to do, but at the same time I didn't. And like, you know, and then I wanted to play because I was still young and I felt like I was athletic enough at the time to do it. And, you know, I was like, oh, you know, let's actually give this a genuine shot. Hence why, you know, I even reached out to you for individuals. Like, you know, I was hitting so many different guys up, you know, that I felt at the time were at the top of their game. And, you know, I really just, you know, wanted, I suppose, to kind of figure out how I could be a part of something and I suppose make an impact at an elite level. And then
Mm.
obviously, you know, you gave me an opportunity and you put in a good word for me to come to St. George because, you know, yeah, you'd actually, you know, given me a great character reference saying that this is just a great team guy to have around. So, and then that's kind of, it's actually crazy. Your introduction and your character reference actually set the tone, you know, for, you know, what was to come.
That's crazy, man. And I didn't even know that stuff about before I met you. So like in my head, I'm like, oh, this guy just knows nothing, man. He just came along. No disrespect.
Fair enough.
But I
Fair
was like, oh
enough.
yeah, come along, bro. Just come to the come for give me a lift, bro. Give me a ride to the game, sweet. And then
Oh,
I
man,
still
that's
remember, bro, you
funny.
came to Sutherland, and then yeah, it just worked out. You came in, started. One thing I noticed off the bat when you came in, like you didn't know anyone. I think you didn't even sit on the bench when you came to the trial. We played at Sutherland. I think you just sat in the stands and then you watched, observed, seen what was going on, and you could
Yeah,
see that the team that we had was very dysfunctional. Um,
yeah,
and we were just a bunch of randoms out there trying to hoop with a really good coach who um, had a really good basketball brain. But you could see from the pieces that it could be a good puzzle. Like it
yeah,
could fit, but it was just a bit of chaos. And then when you came in and you started, you got that role of just chopping film and breaking down the game like that. From that point on, I was like, bro, this guy is willing to go that extra mile and do what other teams definitely aren't doing, especially at like a state league level, you know.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and then when you started putting in work and doing the film stuff, I think you gained a lot of respect and pretty much when you watch film, like I never watch film because I'm just an idiot, but when you actually sit there and watch film, you learn so much more than just going out there and running around like a loose chicken. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like I remember I remember you showing me some film on myself when I was playing at St. George, and I still remember I would never really play help D. I'd worry about my man. I don't know if you remember this, but in my mind, I'm like, no, I'm guarding my dude. Like, you guys take care of your stuff. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sweet. And that was just always my natural mentality. And then I remember watching how, like, you do all these drills, like shell drill and all this stuff to play help side. And
Mm,
you know, in the drill that you got to be there and that. But then come game time, it's like, no, let's all fend for ourselves. And that's just um, I guess, some sort of habit that I had. And then when you showed me that, I think that taught me a lot about myself as a defensive player as well. So yeah, I was glad to learn some quick things off you, and glad to see where you've gone. I mean, you met Demarcus. Let's talk a little bit about your boy Demarcus, man. Uh,
My boy D, yeah.
but
Uh,
honestly, he's probably one of the best coaches that I've ever had.
yeah.
Just in terms of he doesn't overcomplicate things, especially for someone like myself. Like I like to play instinctively off what's in front of me, but obviously you need some structure. And I felt like he put us in good situations to kind of just be ourselves, but still with structure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what was your take on him? Like learning from him in your first year of going hard?
Yeah, it's funny because touching back on like when we are in the initial stages of me coming in, you how that actually started, my relationship with DeMarcus was I sat on the bench and we just lost the game. And we then go into the locker room. And at this point, everyone was just heated. Like, everyone was just sick of the losing because this might have been a second or third straight loss where we were right there, but we just couldn't execute down the stretch and we just couldn't get the timely stops that we needed to win. And I just remember, you and DeMarcus going at it too,
Yeah.
specifically. You guys were airing out, your grievances. And I just remember, DeMarcus, he said something. And so I actually was like, hey, fellas, I'm just sitting here, can I just say something?
Oh, is
And
that when you came
yeah,
in?
that's
Oh,
right. And, I said,
damn.
hey,
Yeah,
guys, do
yeah.
you mind if I just come in and say something? And then, DeMarcus was like, yeah, go ahead. And then, I don't even remember exactly what I said, but I do remember it was kind of just off my pure logic of the fact that I thought you guys were just misunderstanding one another. And then, so I kind of simplified it and I said, this is what Jordy's trying to say. DeMarcus, I think this is what you're trying to say. You guys are both agreeing on the same thing, but we just gotta understand that this is where we are, and this is where we need to get to. And then straight from there, DeMarcus, like I remember that night, after everyone went home, he called me and he actually was like, "Hey man, like I think you could be a really good coach." And we started talking more, and then he invited me to like a meeting, with him and one of the other assistant coaches, Robbie, and then our boy Fabian as well. And
Hey.
that meeting, like even though it wasn't like formal by any means, like that meant a lot to me because right then and there, I felt like I was a part of something. But more importantly, like DeMarcus instilled the belief in me and saw the potential in me and told me that, I had the right mindset. And, I was such a logical person that, for me, if I just had the work ethic to back up my logic and have the right guidance and tutelage, then, I could be a really good coach. So that's kind of how that whole started. And then, working
Wow.
with, yeah, man, like a lot of people don't know that, but, DeMarcus is like, the guy that really instilled that belief in me. And then obviously, along with the blessings from yourself, and then, one of our other guys, Harlow, of course. And, I think that really kind of set the tone. And DeMarcus, man, like in terms of like his personality, like there's a lot of moments of like, where I took I took away, I would walk away thinking, wow, like that passion, that passion
Mm,
right there is why so many people want to play for him, like why so many people, respond to him in a positive way. And, obviously no coach is perfect. Every coach has their flaws, and what they don't do well, and, can always find ways to improve. But one thing that I really took away from DeMarcus was the work ethic, the commitment, the passion, the intensity, and just the love for the game, man. Like, that was the biggest thing. Like he was still, the funny, like people don't know, he was still early in his coaching journey as well. But
mm,
he
mm.
really, like, again, that passion and that work ethic is what I suppose helped him get to, the level that he is now.
Yeah, nice, man. I'll have to catch up with that guy too.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I didn't know that, bro. Because that's funny, man. I remember that. I remember that vividly. Me and Demarcus getting into an argument, but I think I was so heated, I forgot that you jumped in because
Yeah.
I was just thinking about myself, But
Mm.
I remember, man, we're going blow for blow. But then after that game, I think we went on like a 10 or 11 game winning streak, and
We did.
like
We did.
we lost four. I think we lost our first four games, and then from then on, we won like 10 straight, and
Yeah.
straight into the finals.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's moments like that that kind of define. I say that's why it's good to speak our mind, during heated times. And I think that would have been a good experience for you early on, just seeing two guys battle it out in the locker room as well, type thing.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Definitely.
um, yeah, man. So, what's it been like, bro? Since I haven't seen you, I went to Queensland and I went to go pursue my own career.
Yeah.
I don't know what you've been up to, so I've kind of just been in my own world. Then I've had another kid, so just my life's just all over the place. But in terms of like where you're at, um, actually to go back, I remember training with the Hawks during that season as well.
Yes.
With St. George,
Right.
I was there for a couple of weeks, and it was during their preseason, and I was actually there before you got there. I think
Yep.
yeah. And then I don't know how it happened, but they were having open runs, and I think you and Mahesh started going down or something like that. Yeah, that's how that started.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So, uh, how it actually started was this. So, I'd sat down with DeMarcus and I basically said, man, like, this is definitely what I want to do in terms of coaching. Like, do you have any other advice in terms of how I could fast track, I suppose, my knowledge, because
Mm-hmm.
at this stage, I felt I was kind of behind, a lot in a lot of ways. So I kind of wanted to, I suppose have another mentor I could lean on and learn from. And DeMarcus had actually given me Rob Beveridge's email and said, hey, reach out to him. And so I reached out to Bevo, and I actually, reached out to a lot of different NBL clubs as well. And but Bevo was, the one that got back to me, and he basically said, "Yep, no problem. Calm down and just check it out and just feel free to to jump in." So I was like, cool. And then I rocked up, pretty much the next week, and basically from there I just observed, learned, and really got a good feel for what it meant to be a pro.
Mm,
And
mm,
not just from not just from an athlete perspective, but also from a coaching perspective, and just seeing how relaxed Rob Beveridge was in a lot of ways, and how he delegated, and how he communicated with his players, and knew when to really push them, knew when to take a step back and allow the players to drive the culture, and really I suppose know when to interject, and speak his mind. Like that's when I suppose I was just I was like a sponge. I was really just like blown away about how much of a leader he was, and seeing how much of a how much of a great culture he does suppose built at the Hawks. And then at that stage I know Bevo was like, hey, I'm trying to look for some local, to come in, like, do you know some guys? And I was straight away, I was like, you know what, let me see if I, try and get my guys an opportunity, because in the end, I like to see my guys win, and I like to
mm,
see, guys, have an opportunity. So I got Mahesh a run there. I got one, obviously I got D Brown, one run in as well. And even the following year, I got a few other guys, like, as Billy, I actually
yep,
got Billy involved with the Hawks as well, for
yep.
a little while. So yeah, and then that first year, was interesting for me, because I actually, I just started off as a guy that was observing. Then, observing turned into, doing the clock for them. And then doing the clock then turned into, me sitting, near the bench and just, observing further, but also taking down some stats and, kind of touching on what we talked about with DeMarcus and, that opportunity where I interjected, between you and his argument. Same thing in this situation with Bevo. He actually he caught me writing notes during the game, and then we were getting our asses kicked by another team. I can't remember who it was, but we were getting killed. And then at halftime, he looks at my notepad where I had all these stats, but I also had these extra notes. And these notes were just, me purely just writing my thoughts on if I was an assistant coach, how would I give feedback, to the head coach in this situation? So I was almost like getting my game repetitions in as an assistant coach. And it was almost like I was trying to prepare myself for the next level and how I could be better. And then literally he just, it's almost like he was so mad at that point that he looked at me and said, "Hey, can I see that notepad?" And I was just like shakily, yeah, it's crazy, man. So I was like, okay, sure, here it is. And then he just took it and he read it and he went, "Yep, okay, cool, awesome." And then from there, he gave me an opportunity, gave me a role, and so right then and there, and it's just crazy. You never know. Yeah, you just never know.
Man, just stay ready, eh? Staying ready.
Stay ready, stay ready, and that's how that relationship started. Truly.
What did that notepad say? Just out of curiosity. Can you? What do you reckon you read?
Oh man, it was not pretty. Like I was talking about rotations. I was talking in terms of rotation. I was actually being very honest, and going. A lot of it was like, maybe that substitution, could have been better. Maybe we could, look with this lineup. Maybe we could switch some of these screens here to just simplify things. And then maybe off the ball we could do this. I just wrote a whole bunch of notes that were almost pretty much criticizing the head coach. And this is Rob Beveridge, who's the guy, in Australia, one of the best coaches in Australia and internationally. And then when he grabbed it, I was like, oh no, what's he about to say? And then right then and there, he was like, "I appreciate this so much," and boom. And then straight away, that's how I became one of his guys, and just got an opportunity as a scout and as a video guy for them.
Wow, man, that's amazing, bro.
Yeah,
you did that for you worked with Bevo for 2 years, was it? While he was there, and then he left, and then did you go to the Kings after? Did you try and get was it the Kings after that? You had got a little stint with them? Something happened, with COVID or something like that,
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know this actually. So with the Hawks, so Bevo obviously finished up his contract and he was out, and he was actually going to take me on board with him to the Kings. So that was actually the plan. But then,
he was meant to go to the Kings, right?
Yes, that's right. But then he didn't get the opportunity because the Kings decided to go with the signing of Will Weaver. So at that time, I was like, okay, Bevo's not at the Kings anymore. I'm sorry, at the Hawks anymore. Or at the Kings. So I better, go elsewhere and, seek an opportunity. So in between, I was doing a lot of different stuff. I was with Norths at one point as well, doing some ABA stuff with them and doing some junior coaching. And then, also, still in touch with DeMarcus and doing some stuff with him. And then I went to Summer League because, DeMarcus had actually put the idea in my head that, going to Summer League was a great idea. So I go to Summer League and then I meet another Sydney guy, and this was actually Shenton Y. So he was actually
He's actually he knows my wife.
Yes, he does.
He was he was working with the Kings back in the day, right? Or something like that.
Correct.
Right?
So he was working with the Kings back in the day, and then he moved over to the States and got an opportunity with the Utah Jazz. So he's been there for quite some time, and he actually did a seminar, and I attended the seminar, and he was just talking about scouting. So then after the seminar, I actually approached him. I was like, hey, how you going? And then he was like, "Oh, you from Australia?" And then I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm from Australia too." And then we got each other's details. We caught up, and we started talking about, I suppose our journeys up until this point. And he actually then said, "Hey, listen, are you working for any teams back in Australia? And I said, oh, look, I'm not sure yet. I'm still trying to explore the options. And he was like, look, I actually know Will Weaver. So then that's how I got in contact
Oh,
with
okay. Yeah.
Will
Yeah. Yeah.
through Shenton. And, and he actually gave me his email. And then I sent him some samples of my work and different projects that I'd done on NBL teams. And so, yeah, that's how that actually transpired.
Wow. So I remember when you first started coaching, you were studying at university, yeah?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
were you studying, sorry?
So when we met, I would have been
Teaching?
doing my master's of secondary teaching in PDHP.
Did you end up finishing it or?
Yeah, I did. I
Oh, well
did.
done. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, my old man, because we had a good chat about it, and because I at that time he thought I was crazy. He was like, coaching, like what do you mean coaching? Like, isn't that just a hobby? Like
Yeah.
that's
100%. Yeah.
that. I had approached, I told him that I really wanted to do coaching, and he was like, no, you got to finish your degree. And I was like, oh, but I think coaching is what I really want to do. But one thing that he said to me that really struck me right then and there was, when you start something, you want to finish it. Like, you don't want to be known as a quitter. You quit once, you're going to quit for the rest of your life. And that really hit me right then. And I was like, you know what? It's bigger than, my career and anything else. I gotta see this, degree through. So
Hmm.
hence why I did it. And I actually finished my degree. And I still do some casual teaching, now,
Mm.
if I feel like I need more work, but but yeah, I mean, I definitely, my old man still understands that coaching is my number one priority.
Wow, man. Man, that's really inspirational. Another thing that I wanted to ask you was like, you've pretty much worked your way up from the janitor to, getting an actual role.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now you're coaching an NBL1 team, which is, basically in a professional league now,
Yeah.
which is Australia wide. And, getting that head role, obviously, you got to be a little bit nervous, um, stepping into the field. But do you feel like you're ready, man? Do you feel like this is your time? And or you probably felt like you were ready back when you had the notes with Bevo, eh? But like how are you honestly feeling about this role? And I know you're going to give me a logical answer because you're a very logical person.
Yeah.
One of the words I always remember you saying was clarity. And you remember that back in the guys, we need to have clarity. And you know what? I never knew what clarity meant. I used to just sit there and go, "Oh yeah, clarity. What's that?" And then I remember asking someone, they're like, "Oh, clarity, like clear." I'm like, "Oh yeah, mad." But yeah, so anyways, how you feel? How you honestly feeling about it, man?
No, you're 100% right, man. I mean, if I'm being honest, there is a level of nervousness because obviously, it's my opportunity now. Like, it's the opportunity I've been waiting for. And, when you actually have it, because you care so much, like, you have a little bit of anxiety at the same time, where, that anxiety can take you so many different ways. And for me, my anxiety when I coach has always steered me towards a direction of motivation. Like it motivates me to make sure that I take care of everything that is within my control. So, yeah, I definitely have some anxiety towards it, but in a positive way. Like, I think I've always used my worries as a way to make sure that I prepare myself to my absolute best so that, come the time to execute, I feel very much in control and I feel very, prepared in the moment. So, yeah, look, it's exciting, because you got to think, I've been an assistant for, with ABA teams, I've sat on the bench, and at the NBL level, I've been there, I've assisted, I've seen what it takes, from a second eye, but when you're actually in the seat, it's a different story. And I can tell you so many experiences where I've lived that and gone, wow, like the difference between being an assistant to a head coach is it's drastic. Like it's like you're thinking a million miles ahead, and you just don't even know where to begin. But I will say, especially to a lot of young coaches, who right now I would say probably don't. I suppose don't want to appreciate the process, and I suppose just want to get to the destination as quick as possible. I'd probably say to a lot of young coaches now, and probably my younger self, like take your time, like get your reps in, pay your dues, like start anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's high school, club, whatever it might be. Like it could be like the year 7, G's, like boys or girls,
Yeah.
it could be anything. Just start somewhere and build your confidence as a head coach, and obviously, have a mentor, but build your confidence, in the lead up, so that one day, you'll be better prepared for it.
I was going to ask you as well, like for a bit of wisdom, because I've had a few people come to me um, that are kind of been coaching for, I'd say, quite a while now, maybe, probably longer than you've been coaching, and they're still kind of in the same circle. They're trying to, it gets to, I feel like as a coach, for me, like I think I'm going to coach. I think coaching something that I'll do soon, but for me, I've never really been ready yet because I'm still in that player mindset. So now transitioning into, all right, it's time to, actually learn the game. But for these guys, kind of like yourself, not really players, but kind of just wanting to be coaches. They're passionate about it. They feel like the only way that they can do it is to, impress certain people that are around. You know what I mean? Like at certain clubs, oh, I got to go and be this guy's friend, or I got to go and make sure that this guy's happy. Otherwise, I got no chance. What kind of advice do you have for people with that type of mindset? Because for me, I think that's just very small. Like to think that your destiny is controlled by another person's opinion. If it's something that you're good enough to do, I believe that you'll just be good enough to do it. So what kind of advice would you give to people in that sort of situation? I don't know if you've come across people like that yourself, or uh,
Definitely, man. For me, and I know this sounds kind of cliche and kind of corny, but be yourself, because I like, so many of, that you've just described, in terms of, wanting to, get to be, this person's best friend, and really be tight with this person. Yeah, I do believe networking, has its place. And I do believe it's important to know people in the industry. But I think it's also important, to, you know, be your own person. And I suppose, just work on your own craft, because I've don't get it twisted. Like, I've had some luck in the process. Like I've met people along the way, such as yourself, Demarcus, Bevo, and so many others, that have, put me in a position right now to be successful. But at the same time, like, I was very much myself in the process. I had the work ethic, I had the passion, I had the drive and the motivation. And more importantly, I also had the commitment to the unrequired work. And that's something that, Demarcus used to say to me all the time, was the unrequired work. And it really means to me, the unrequired really means to me that you want to do things above and beyond, like, than what's required. And, I always, came to the table with something different. I always had, a notepad with extra notes on it, on game day. Going to an interview, I had a 30-page, head coaching proposal. Going, making sure I had, a button up, with a tie, with dress shoes on, like anything that would separate myself, from the next guy up. Like I always felt like, I had to do more than what was required, because not everyone is a pro, like, coming into and then going into the coaching realm. Like some people, have that opportunity and that privilege because, they've worked hard as a player, and as a result, they build themselves a name and get into the coaching scene. But then there are also people like myself who don't know where to start, don't know how to start, and and then kind of get lost in that process. But I suppose, for me, I just, my biggest advice is find a mentor, somebody that you can trust, and someone you can lean on, and someone that's also just as equally passionate in the game. And also, be willing to and be willing to do almost anything. Like I did a lot of free work. A lot of people don't understand that. Even now, I still
Oh
do
yeah.
some. Even now, I still do a lot of free work just for an opportunity, and just to get my name in the door, my foot in the door, and also, to build my network up. So, like, don't be above the unrequired work. Like, that would be my biggest advice as well.
100%. No, great words of advice, man. I think even as players, people let other people's standards kind of ripple down to their own mindset. And for some reason, if I don't make state, if I don't make New South Wales or Queensland, then I'm not going to be good enough to go to college, or I'm not going to be at that level to compete with whoever. But I think at the end of the day, like even for myself, I didn't even start playing reps until under 18. So like and then I went and played up in the QBL, which to me is an achievement in itself. So like to come from wherever, it doesn't really matter, and you can go down whatever avenue you want. You just got to have the drive to want to get there. And I think you hit it perfectly with the whole not just above and beyond, but not being or willing to do the unpaid stuff, because I think that's what separates, especially for coaching. Not getting paid is probably the biggest sacrifice that you're going to go through in Australia, especially. Nobody's going to pay you to do shit. If you're gonna pay your dues and you're a nobody, then don't expect to get money, and don't be salty that you're not making any money. You got to really invest your time and show that you want to be there, which is what I've seen you do. Show that it's not about the money, it's about me getting to where I want to be, and however long that takes, so be it. And
Definitely.
and yeah, man. So that's why I wanted to talk to you, bro. And I was just like, you came straight to mind when I was speaking to someone, a friend of mine, who was kind of stuck in this whole like, oh, I don't know if I want to coach anymore. I'm not sure if this is what I want to do. And I just thought to myself, like, bang, Daniel Kim, Mr. Kim. Good example. Good example for just people out there that if it's really your passion, and kind of like what you touched on with the whole boxing scenario with that dude, that he looked you in the eye and he said, you pause for that split second and he says, no, it's not for you. I think for a lot of people out there, it might not be for them as well, but
Yeah.
maybe they need to go and really push themselves and see if it is, just give it a crack. And if it's not,
Yeah.
then it's not.
Definitely, man. I mean, on that topic of like, I suppose, doubt. I mean, I don't get it twisted. I still have self-doubt. Like, from the outside looking in, and, people, get it twisted sometimes and think, oh, this guy's just a confident guy, he's so sure of himself, he's so prepared all the time. But, I also have my own demons, like, just like anybody else. Like, I have my moments where I question, is this what I really, is this, for me? Because, for a while, sometimes you don't see too many rewards, in this industry. It takes a while sometimes for you to get your foot in the door, and to take that leap. I would say, I've known so many players, that even, they'd go through like a 10-year stretch, before even getting into the NBL. Like, hell, Jared Weeks, like, he's a classic example of that as well. And, I just want to tell people out there that you're going to have those moments of where you don't have clarity, as my boy Geordie would say, but you're going to have your moments where you're going to question whether or not you're going to make it, and you're going to question whether or not, like, this is genuinely for you. And I had those moments in COVID. I can't lie. Like, during lockdown, probably in the first couple of weeks here in Sydney, I definitely had those moments, for about a week or so, where I was like, am I going to be able to get anywhere here? Like, I'm not in the state fold, and where it's an easier path. I've got no one else in the NBL to turn to for an opportunity. I don't know where to go from here. And, I felt lost for a split moment. And, you definitely feel a bit sorry for yourself. But then at some stage, I told myself that I can't quit. Like, I've come too far, and, I've started this journey. And, if it's going to end, it's going to end on the terms of, me giving it my absolute all. So, hence why, I haven't quit. And, literally out of this lockdown, I picked up 4 jobs, coaching jobs in 4 different roles, from not just
Wow.
overseas, but, here in Australia. So, hey, it's normal to have self-doubt. It's normal, to feel, stressed and overwhelmed. But just understand that as long as you have a good, inner circle of people that will support you and give you, that clarity and that confidence and that support, that's key. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Man, another funny thing I want to bring up is, like, especially being Asian, man. Like,
Mm,
you're a minority in the basketball world in Australia, probably more than any other race when I think about it. As an Asian, like, we all know that Asians love basketball probably the most out of than any other race. But when it comes to being at the top level in Australia, you don't see many Asian people,
yeah,
just in general, as a
yeah,
coach, as a player, as anyone. And if you're
yeah.
and it's not like most people are. Um, I think the majority is Caucasian, like when you think about it.
Mm,
So,
yeah, yeah,
being a white fella, I mean, being an Asian fella from Sydney, jumping into a world where it's just, all Caucasian, and then you got your random, imports and, other races. But, how does that feel, bro? Like, does that intimidate? Do you feel like a bit of, I don't know, do you feel anything out of that?
yeah. No, you know what, man? It gives me a chip on my shoulder. Like, I can't even lie. Like, it makes me even feel more competitive, and, it makes me.
Have you ever experienced any racial issues. Is I think that's what I was trying to say. Like, have you ever been discriminated being Asian? You know?
Yeah, no, definitely, man. Obviously, like, racism is such a, it's one of those things where it can be so subtle or in your face. Like, I always find it to be one or the other. And I've had my fair share, even before the coaching side of things, even growing up in high school, and just seeing subtle, I suppose tells of, I suppose, discrimination as well in that sense. And even with coaching, like, I definitely have. I won't name names, obviously, but I remember I went into a new club, and one of the ex directors of coaching, he actually, I got introduced to him, and the first thing he said to me was, "Oh, like, where are you from, buddy?" And I was like, "What's like? What? Sorry, I don't understand what you mean." And then he answered and he said, "Oh, you just don't look like you're from around here." And then to him, like, he tried to say it so innocently, but I knew exactly what he was saying at the time, and I could feel it from the jump. And
Did he speak
even
slow? Did he say, "Where are you from"? You
no,
ever
he
get those
definitely.
ones?
No, I have gotten those ones before.
Oh man.
Yeah, I've gotten those before. But I think because being Asian as well in this industry, I definitely, before people knew who I was in Sydney, I think people definitely didn't take me as seriously. They kind of just saw me, and hell, to be honest, I think they even thought that I was still in high school. I'd get those kind of comments. I'm like, "Oh, how old are you, mate?" And then as soon as I tell them how old I am, they're like, "Oh, wow, you're my age," or like, "Oh, you're actually an adult." Like, so, I get a lot of those kind of comments and jabs. And even when I went to interviews, I'd come in, prepared, coming in with a presentation. And I'm looking at the guy that's next to me who's about to go in as well, and he's wearing like sandals and like a shirt, but he's got a bigger name than me, of course, and some ex NBL guys. And when I go in, they're like, "Oh, the first thing they ask is, oh, so buddy, where are you from, and how old are you actually?" And that's actually, that kind of like hit me a couple times too. And I've actually had some moments where I was really vulnerable about it, because in some ways I felt a bit insecure, which I'm not proud to say, because being Asian and being not having any background in professional basketball as a player, I knew that would set me back. I knew that would in some ways be a hurdle and a challenge. But then it was actually it might have been DeMarcus again and Bevo too that actually set me aside and said, "You know what, make it your strength, because there aren't many Asians in this industry, for one, and two, there aren't going to be many people like you that have had the journey that you've had. So you know what, use that as your strength. Don't use it as a crutch. Actually use it as your strength." So yeah, that's kind of been my experiences. But as I've kind of grown more here, like I've learned to deal with it, but I've also learned to actually add it as extra motivation.
Awesome, Murray. Just another chip on your shoulder.
Definitely.
And
Not-
one thing that nobody can argue is that Asian people are smart. So just pull out that book, bro, and start talking these clarity words, bro. People like me will just shut up.
Just throw big words.
Yeah. But I wanted to talk a little bit about just to finish off, just on your views on. I mean, if it's going to get you in trouble, you don't have to. But like your views in terms of going the state route, and like playing state basketball. Because myself, I didn't grow up playing state or anything like that. I didn't even know about it. Like I just grew up in Parramatta. Just like I couldn't even. My coaches used to buy me basketball shoes. Like could barely afford to pay the fees. So I mean, for kids out there that want to play like or represent their state, what does that actually mean? Because I've heard you got to pay money to actually play at the state level, and I find that pretty mind blowing. And because knowing being from out west as well. And then you see these kids that do play state, and it's like you've never seen them before. I remember just growing up going like, who are these guys that play state? Like these so-called state players. And you just never see them. But then you go to Blacktown, go for a run down at Kevin Betts or Blacktown PCYC, or even go to the city on KGV on a Friday night, and you just see some talented kids that just blow your mind. And even when I came back from playing in the QBL, man, I'd go down there and get my ass kicked by some 18-year-olds. You know what I mean? Just like, and I'd never seen them before, and it's
Yeah.
just like, wow. And there's so much talent in Sydney, eh? And I think Mahesh and those Oz Hoop boys touched up on that when they were speaking to Bawali. I saw their podcast as well, talking about how there's so much slep talent on in Sydney. What are your views on that, bro? In terms of like, should kids go the state route? How important is it to play state here? And do the best kids actually play?
Yeah. So I mean, look, obviously, as we know in basketball, man, like, there's always going to be some level of politics or some sense of loyalty towards, why, like, maybe even, whoever, for whatever reason, maybe talent identification and how they see what talent is, and I suppose what good talent looks like. I know a lot of people debate this. My perspective is this: is that there's more than one route. There's more than one route, beyond, trying to just go through reps or just trying to go through the state route. Like, again, like you said, there's so many kids in Sydney that people don't even know about. Like, I'm talking to, currently, the Perth GM about, some of the untapped talent that we have here in Sydney. And, I hit him with some names and he's like, who? And, and as soon as I show him, some highlights and some game tape, he's like, my goodness, like, where did this kid come from? So, yeah, there's some, like, I personally think that there's more than one route. And a lot of it also comes down to, I suppose, whether or not you feel that, that is the best, the best way, for your development. Because to be honest with you, I didn't go through a state program. I never like went through any of the, SPP coaching routes. And I'm not, throwing any shade on it whatsoever. But what I will say is that, I feel that I've gone through a different pathway. And, so far, it's shown a lot of great results. And I just feel there's always more than one way. And to a lot of the kids that are in Sydney as well, I don't feel like they should put their self-worth in the state program, because the reality is that a lot of kids, miss out because they can't even pay. They can't even pay a fee. And as a result, that they miss out. And to me, that is ridiculous. Like, I feel, the best of the best, should be invested in and should be given the opportunity. Not just because they can't pay a fee. I'm definitely a believer in that. So, look, in the end, the way I see it is, I don't think people should put their self-worth in it. I think, they should always, look at, different routes to see, whether or not, they can get a better opportunity, whether it's prep school in America, college, or, going over, to a different country, whatever it might be. I think there's always another way.
100%, man. I agree. But it's just sad to know that there's kids out there that can really hoop, and then they kind of get lost by the time they hit like 18, 19, looking for a sense of direction, not feeling like they don't get the love from basketball. So they venture off and do whatever it is they do, whether it's work or, just, I don't know, whatever. But I feel like there's a lot of lost kids that we lose through the cracks just because of those, silly factors that, you're not a part of some sort of program or whatever.
Definitely.
So,
That's why I'm personally happy that there are a lot of, great guys in Sydney out here that are doing so much, for some of that untapped talent. Obviously, we got Mahesh here in Sydney, who's doing a tremendous job of, working out some of the elite talent here and some of the local talent as well. And then, you got Marquise as well, who's doing a lot here as well. And we've even got, guys like Rex Nottage, in Newington, who constantly are out there giving opportunities, to a lot of the African community as well. So there's so many other influences that we have here in Sydney that I feel are doing a tremendous job of, still, I suppose giving back and, helping people, through a different path. So, that being said, any of those guys, that are currently struggling right now, I encourage you guys, look beyond the state route as well. If you don't make the team, there are other coaches out here, I guarantee willing to help.
100%. I mean, for me, I just, you remember I was playing at St. George State League, man. And I don't know what I was doing in my life. And then I think we went to China, played in the jump. Yeah, we played in the jump 10 tournament. And then Shaq got approached. I don't know, something was happening with something, and Shaq got approached by a coach. And then I literally didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, oh, I want to play too. So I just Messenger, Facebook, hey, you need a point guard? It was like, all right, show me some highlights. And then bam, I'm over there. You know what I mean? So I was like, and I never made a highlight tape. I had to literally go home and make a highlight tape.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like just doing those little things. And I don't know, the game's changed now. The kids are different now. Everybody just shoots threes. So I wouldn't survive in today's game anymore.
Nah,
Yeah.
you know, but you touched on it, man. I mean, you seized the opportunity, like you
Yep.
seized it. And I think that's something that a lot of kids can learn as well, is seizing their opportunity. And you never know who's watching. Like, my God, like if Demarcus wasn't there, you know, when I, you know, put my hand up and interjected between you guys, if Bevo wasn't, you know, if Bevo didn't, you know, see me writing that note, you know, didn't see me writing that notepad, if Steve Carfino didn't, you know, see me coaching at Sutherland before he gave me the job at Barker College, you know, if Tom Garb, you know, didn't get an experience, you know, from me coaching him during ABA at Norths, like if none of these guys had, you know, seeing me do the work, and like you just like I don't think I'd be here today. I really wouldn't be here today. And you know, so
100%.
yeah, you really just, I think, seizing the opportunity is key, man. And like, like yourself and so many others, man, like, you know, I encourage people to really, you know, seize the opportunity and just remember that you never know who's watching and you never know when that opportunity is going to come.
Beautiful, man. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there, bro. And I think that was a good hour, man. We hit it off. That was sweet.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, man. So thank you so much, bro. I don't know what else to say, bro. I'm just gonna cut off the recording. But yeah, appreciate you, bro. Any last words there, bro? Any last words?
Appreciate you having me, man. And you know, again, you know, I'm excited. I'm excited to, you know, be a part of this podcast, and I'm excited, you know, to be a part of, you know, I suppose the, you know, the journey here, you know, with, you know, with where you're going at the moment, and look forward to seeing, you know, what's up next.
Yeah, hopefully I can afford a microphone so I don't have to steal someone's game phones.
All part of the grind. All
Yeah,
part of the
bro.
grind.
Hey, I'm at the chopping up film stage, doing that free work right now, not getting paid for it.
The
But
unrequired.
yeah, the unrequired work. That's it. But yeah, I'll just turn this off, man.